The galaxy far, far away, a battleground between the tyranny of the Empire and the flickering hope of the Rebel Alliance, would have taken a dramatically different course if surviving Jedi had actively joined the rebellion. The Jedi, once the guardians of peace and justice in the Republic, were hunted to near extinction during Order 66. However, in an alternate scenario where a faction of Jedi emerged from the shadows to support the Rebel Alliance, the course of galactic history would shift significantly. This interplay of ancient wisdom, mystical power, and rebellious resolve would create a fascinating dynamic with implications for both the Alliance's success and the wider conflict against the Empire. The Jedi's inclusion in the rebellion would bring immediate strategic advantages. Their mastery of the Force, lightsaber combat, and deep understanding of galactic politics would make them invaluable assets in the war against the Empire. For the Alliance, which often relied on hit-and-run tactics and sabotage, the presence of Jedi would elevate their capabilities. Imagine a Jedi leading a strike team against an Imperial installation. Their precognitive abilities could allow them to evade traps, outmaneuver Imperial forces, and disable critical systems with precision. The Force itself would become an asset, offering the Alliance an edge that the Empire's military might would struggle to counter. From a leadership perspective, the Jedi would offer more than martial skill. The wisdom of the Jedi Order, tempered by their experiences during the Clone Wars and the betrayal that followed, would provide the Alliance with advisors who understood the stakes of the conflict at a fundamental level. Figures like Ahsoka Tano or Cal Kestis, both survivors with ties to the Jedi Order, could influence the strategic direction of the rebellion. Their presence might also inspire a renewed hope among the rank and file of the Alliance. After all, the Jedi were legends, their tales interwoven with the history of the galaxy. To fight alongside a Jedi would symbolize that the light had not been extinguished entirely. However, the inclusion of Jedi in the rebellion would not be without complications. The Empire, under the rule of Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine, was founded on the eradication of the Jedi. The discovery of active Jedi within the Alliance would likely result in a disproportionate escalation of Imperial retaliation. Vader, a former Jedi himself, harbored a personal vendetta against the remnants of his old order. The Emperor, a Sith Lord who had orchestrated the downfall of the Jedi, would view their resurgence as a direct threat to his reign. The presence of Jedi within the rebellion would draw the Empire's attention, forcing the Alliance to contend with even more aggressive measures. Additionally, the philosophical underpinnings of the Jedi could clash with the pragmatic, often morally ambiguous methods employed by the Rebel Alliance. The Jedi Code emphasized discipline, non-attachment, and a strict sense of morality. The rebellion, fighting against an overwhelmingly powerful adversary, often operated in shades of gray, utilizing espionage, sabotage, and tactics that would challenge the Jedi's ethical boundaries. Could the Jedi adapt to the realities of guerrilla warfare without compromising their principles? Or would their presence create internal tensions within the Alliance, forcing difficult conversations about the means and ends of their struggle? On a personal level, the Jedi themselves would face unique challenges. The trauma of surviving the Purge, coupled with the responsibility of helping to restore balance to the galaxy, would weigh heavily on them. Some Jedi might struggle with the temptation to seek vengeance against the Empire, risking a descent into the very darkness they sought to oppose. Others might question whether their actions were truly serving the light, or if they were simply perpetuating a cycle of violence. These inner conflicts would not only define their individual journeys but also influence the broader dynamics of their role within the rebellion. Perhaps the most profound impact of Jedi involvement in the rebellion would be their ability to rekindle belief in the Force among the galaxy's inhabitants. The Empire's propaganda machine had worked tirelessly to erase the Jedi from memory, framing them as traitors and mystics of a bygone age. By actively opposing the Empire, surviving Jedi could counter this narrative, reminding the galaxy of the ideals they once stood for. This resurgence of faith could galvanize resistance movements across planets, inspiring new recruits and allies to join the Alliance's cause. The Jedi's very existence would serve as a beacon, a reminder that the Empire's power was not absolute. Yet, this rekindling of belief would not be universally embraced. The Jedi were not without their flaws, and their role in the decline of the Republic might make some wary of their involvement. There would be those within the rebellion who questioned whether the Jedi could truly be trusted. These divisions could lead to factionalism, complicating the Alliance's ability to present a united front against the Empire. The question of leadership might also arise. Would the Jedi assume prominent roles within the rebellion, potentially overshadowing existing leaders like Mon Mothma or Bail Organa? Or would they operate more covertly, lending their aid without seeking authority? In this altered timeline, the confrontation between the Jedi and the Sith would gain renewed significance. The rivalry between the light and dark sides of the Force would become a central element of the rebellion's struggle, shaping its battles and the decisions of its leaders. Encounters between Jedi and Sith, between the remnants of an ancient order and the agents of the dark side, would be moments of profound consequence, influencing not just the war itself but also the galaxy's perception of the Force and its place in the ongoing conflict. The Jedi's presence would also bring the potential for unforeseen consequences. Their actions, however well-intentioned, might inadvertently draw greater chaos to the galaxy. The Force is inherently balanced, and any resurgence of the light side could provoke an equally powerful response from the dark. The Emperor, already a master manipulator, might exploit the Jedi's involvement to further his own ends, using their presence to justify even harsher measures against dissent. The Jedi themselves, if not careful, could fall into the traps of hubris or overreach, repeating the mistakes that had contributed to their downfall during the Clone Wars. While the Jedi's inclusion in the rebellion would undeniably strengthen its efforts, it would also bring new challenges and complexities. The interplay of light and dark, hope and despair, would define this altered struggle, creating a rich and unpredictable narrative. Ultimately, the Jedi's involvement would not simply be a matter of bolstering the Alliance's military capabilities. It would be a question of whether the Jedi could reconcile their past failures with the needs of the present, and whether their presence could truly tip the scales in the battle for the galaxy's soul. The resurgence of the Jedi within the rebellion would intensify the personal stakes for many key figures in the galactic civil war. For Luke Skywalker, the presence of surviving Jedi would transform his journey entirely. Without the weight of being the galaxy's sole hope for reviving the Jedi Order, Luke could benefit from the mentorship and experience of others who had endured the Purge. Figures like Ahsoka Tano or Quinlan Vos, if they survived in this alternate timeline, might take on roles as his teachers or allies, providing invaluable guidance as he navigated the complexities of the Force and his destiny. This dynamic would enrich Luke's character arc, as he would have to reconcile his burgeoning ideals with the hardened perspectives of Jedi who had lived through the Clone Wars and Order 66. Their lessons might be tinged with caution, urging him to avoid the mistakes of the past. Yet Luke's optimism and willingness to challenge old dogmas could inspire these veterans to see the galaxy's potential anew. The interplay between Luke's unshakable hope and the wariness of the surviving Jedi would create a compelling narrative thread, illustrating the generational shift in how the Jedi viewed their role in the galaxy. Moreover, the survival of other Jedi would fundamentally alter the dynamics between Luke and Darth Vader. Vader's obsession with the destruction of the Jedi might take on a broader scope, as his hunt would no longer be confined to Luke. The possibility of confrontations between Vader and other Jedi survivors adds another layer of tension and drama to the story. These encounters could explore the lingering bonds Vader might feel toward former comrades from his days as Anakin Skywalker, creating emotional depth and opportunities for inner conflict within the Sith Lord. It might also spark moments where Vader's loyalty to the Emperor is tested, particularly if confronted with Jedi who attempt to reach the remnants of the man he once was. The inclusion of the Jedi would also profoundly affect the Emperor's strategy. Palpatine, ever the master manipulator, would likely see their resurgence as both a threat and an opportunity. He might engineer scenarios to bait the Jedi into traps, leveraging their commitment to the light side and their belief in self-sacrifice against them. Palpatine's ability to exploit their moral compass could lead to devastating losses for the rebellion, forcing the Jedi to confront difficult choices that test the very core of their principles. Such scenarios would further underscore the stakes of the war, showcasing how the Jedi's involvement complicates the moral and strategic calculus of the Alliance. Meanwhile, the Jedi's presence would shape the rebellion's operations in the field. Missions spearheaded by Jedi would carry the potential for extraordinary success or catastrophic failure. A Jedi-led assault on an Imperial facility might succeed in dismantling critical infrastructure or rescuing key prisoners, but such actions would come at a cost. The Empire's inevitable reprisals would target not just the Jedi but also the worlds and systems harboring them. The Rebellion, already accustomed to being hunted, would face an even greater challenge as the Empire intensified its pursuit of Jedi-led cells. This could strain relationships within the Alliance, as some leaders might view the Jedi as a liability whose presence brings unwanted attention. On the broader galactic stage, the reemergence of the Jedi would shift the balance of public perception. While many would see their involvement as a rallying cry for freedom and justice, others might view it with suspicion or even hostility. The Empire's propaganda machine had long painted the Jedi as traitors and failures, and these narratives would not disappear overnight. On worlds heavily influenced by Imperial rule, the Jedi's involvement might embolden pro-Imperial factions, who could use their presence to justify crackdowns on dissent. Conversely, the Jedi could serve as a symbol of hope for oppressed populations, igniting uprisings and resistance movements that the Alliance alone might not have inspired. Within the Rebellion itself, the philosophical tensions between the Jedi and non-Jedi leadership could come to a head. Figures like Mon Mothma, with her pragmatic approach to governance, might clash with Jedi leaders over the methods and priorities of the Alliance. Would the Jedi's commitment to nonviolence and diplomacy hinder the Rebellion's ability to wage a brutal war of survival? Or would their perspective temper the Alliance's more aggressive tendencies, ensuring that its fight against tyranny does not devolve into the very authoritarianism it seeks to overthrow? These debates would not only shape the Rebellion's strategies but also challenge its members to consider the moral dimensions of their struggle. The ripple effects of Jedi involvement would also extend to the wider galaxy. The Hutts, criminal syndicates, and other neutral powers might alter their calculations based on the resurgence of the Jedi. Smugglers and bounty hunters, eager to curry favor with the Empire, could take up contracts specifically targeting Jedi operatives, creating a shadow war within the larger conflict. Meanwhile, planets with historic ties to the Jedi Order, such as Coruscant or Lothal, might see renewed activity as both the Alliance and Empire seek to capitalize on the symbolism and resources of these locations. Perhaps most intriguing, the Jedi's presence would redefine the nature of the Force's role in galactic events. In the original timeline, Luke's journey emphasized the idea that even one individual, guided by the Force, could alter the galaxy's destiny. In this alternate scenario, the Jedi's collective efforts would expand this theme, showcasing how their unity or lack thereof could shape the outcome of the war. The interplay between individual agency and collective action, between the choices of a single Jedi and the decisions of the group, would deepen the narrative's exploration of heroism, sacrifice, and redemption. The climax of this altered story would carry immense weight. Imagine a scenario in which the Jedi and the Rebellion converge on a decisive battle, their combined efforts testing the limits of their resolve and their unity. The outcome would hinge not only on military strategy but also on the personal growth and choices of key characters. Would the Jedi's involvement be enough to turn the tide against the Empire, or would their presence complicate the Rebellion's efforts in unforeseen ways? And in the aftermath, what role would the Jedi play in the galaxy's future? Would they rebuild their order, learning from their past mistakes, or would they fade into the background, content with having restored balance and justice? Ultimately, the inclusion of Jedi in the Rebellion would transform the Star Wars saga into a more intricate and layered tale, one that explores the complexities of power, morality, and resistance in the face of overwhelming darkness. It would be a story not just of war, but of reconciliation, both within the galaxy and within the souls of those fighting to save it.